storm show. Ay, it's a storm show.
All right, so Tori, you have a really, really deep and heartbreaking story about how, you have been greatly affected by the injustice of our justice system. And so I'm just going to let you start off by telling me your story, and then we're just going to just go back and forth from there.
Well, how you doing? I'm definitely thankful for this opportunity and, shining light on my story and my case because, this is definitely a great platform to do that. And, I definitely love what you're doing in your show, so I appreciate that. I just want to start with, I'm actually right now incarcerated and been incarcerated since I was 15 years old. And I've been incarcerated for a robbery, that I committed when I was 15 years old, where pretty much a laptop was stolen. It wasn't even really much taken, and I was the youngest individual amongst adults. And, I received 47 years, and nobody was injured in that, during that robbery. I didn't even have a gun during that robbery, but ended up getting a firearm charge for each person because one individual had a firearm charge. And pretty much they stacked charges on us, on me particularly because when I got locked up, well, let me start. What happened is, I was young and I was following, adults and, pretty much I had a child on the way and I was only 15 years old. So, it wasn't a way that I could get a job or have any income or have financial stability. So I went to the individuals that I thought I could trust or that I knew and, asked them for help. And, they introduced me or pretty much put me on to a crime. And, this is the first time I ever been incarcerated for anything. I never even had not one charge prior to this. So this is not...
Before 15 years old,
not,
trouble with anybody. So before 15, you hadn't been in trouble with anybody.
I haven't ever been in trouble before, ever. This is the first time I've ever been in trouble. And the first crime I ever done. So, yeah, I followed and went on a robbery, and some money was taken, but not much, but a laptop was taken. So when the laptop was taken, it was a college girl that went to Virginia Union in Richmond, Virginia College, and she was the driver. So somehow down the line, after it was done, she took her and another individual, another adult, took the laptop to the pawn shop, and it came up in a robbery. So they traced it back to her and locked her up, and when she got locked up, pretty much she let them know who was involved and who done it. So they locked all of us up, and they locked other people up, too, that didn't have pretty much anything to do with that situation. But go ahead.
I think you should let them know, too, that you were arrested in Virginia, but you're originally from New York.
Yeah, I'm originally from New York. I wasn't even in Virginia probably longer than a year and a half. So, yeah, I never been in trouble in New York or anywhere else I've been. I don't have no prior history.
Yeah. That's insane to think that a first-time offender would get the amount of time that you did.
Exactly. So, in the process of getting locked up, they did one of them things where they call closing the book. So anything that was similar to what happened then in that crime in the surrounding areas, they tried to pretty much indict us for it. So pretty much I ended up getting indicted for other things that I didn't even do. And yeah, that's pretty much what happened. I'm only guilty for that one crime that I did. But when they indicted us on the other things, and I've been in plenty of lineups doing this. Nobody ever put me up in no other lineup for the other things that happened. But I still ended up having charges stacked on me, which forced me into a plea. And pretty much the plea, was to cooperate or try to, but I ended up getting so much time because how can I cooperate on crimes that I didn't even do?
Yeah.
So I didn't even have nothing to cooperate for, so they pretty much got mad and felt like I should get a hard sentence.
And they ended up giving you. So let's back up a little bit. So, you're in court as a juvenile, as a minor. They could have sent you to juvenile, to juvie or whatever, but they chose to charge you as an adult. You've got a kid on the way. Unless you come from a really rich background, most of us don't have money for all those high-priced lawyers, so you're stuck with a public defender. What was the amount of time you were facing before they shifted it to 47 years?
Basically said I would have got pretty much life without, the crazy number was pretty much life, and 47 pretty much life. That's geriatric life. Anything over 20 years is pretty much life. But, they gave an extreme number out and pretty much said, well, if you don't take the plea, that you're going to get all this time. And this was a court-appointed lawyer who was pressing me to do so. And I was trying to go to trial for the other crimes because I'm like, I didn't do that.
And it's such a shame that in our system, in our justice system, it seems like unless you're rich, unless you're white, unless you're from the right neighborhood, you don't really get justice. You just get attention.
Exactly. So, at this point, we're trying to shine a light and show that, pretty much juveniles and youth are constitutionally and developmentally different from adults. And, scientists and scholars have proven this fact. At the end of the day, a human brain does not even fully develop until a person reaches his or her mid-20s. And, the parts of their brain that develop last are the reasons that control a person's ability to weigh risks and consequences.
Now, the part of the brain that Tori is actually referring to is called the prefrontal cortex, and it lies at the very front of the brain. Now, this part of the brain is responsible for decision making, impulse control, and it has been scientifically proven that the development and maturation of this part of the brain is not fully accomplished until age 25.
The plan ahead make complicated decisions and demonstrate self-control. And, at a minor, you're not thinking about for every action is a reaction or the trauma that you're causing for the crime that you're committing. You're not thinking rationally.
You're not, and that's what I be trying to tell people on the show. You have to understand, if your brain is not even fully developed until 25, why are we holding especially children responsible for something that it's not that they can't help it, but they just don't fully grasp the consequences. You can't. You're not developed.
Exactly. And I'm fully aware that, yes, I did the crime. I did one of them. And, I take full responsibility for that. But should I spend my whole life and the rest of my life in prison for that? I don't think so. And most people don't either. But when you're in a Commonwealth state, and where they don't have justice, reform, and they don't have systemic racism, at the end of the day, when your skin like this, you're gonna get harsh sentences. If, like you said, if you don't have paid lawyers, So this is the things that we face with today. Now we at the point. I'm at the point in my life where, the governor out in Virginia just passed a law saying, you know, juveniles should be treated a little different. So they giving us the opportunity to make parole after 20 years. And I think in 2.5 more years, maybe 3, I will be going up for parole. But I'm actually also in the process of a clemency, which would be a conditional pardon, basically saying, you know, I've given enough time and my crime wasn't as harsh for my sentence, you know, to be released. And this is why we pretty much letting people know what's going on in the world and what's going on, because this is not the only state that's doing this. You know, they're doing it all over the United States at this point.
Yeah, they are. And, you know, and that's another thing, too, even with us being, it's a whole other issue, Tori, but even being in the United States, but you tell me if I'm in one state, I'm going to be treated this way, but I cross a border, it's like you treat me completely different for the same crime. Like, we need reform when it comes to that, too, but that's a whole nother story. So, I think what people should also realize, because a lot of people are going to say, well, why would you take the time? You've seen the numbers they put in front of you, but I think I just feel like people really don't get it unless they're in their position. If somebody tells you spend pretty much the rest of, well, you can spend the rest of your life or this amount, you're going to do whatever you can and not be in there for life. Like,
Exactly.
You just, anybody would do that. And so you went in at 15, correct?
Yeah, and I'm 17, and and I'm 32. I'll be 33 on December 7th. So, yeah, I've done 17 years. 8 going on 18.
Tell us about what you've missed in your kids' lives and your family lives. Just give us some insight on that.
Well, yeah, you know, I missed my kids' whole life. You know, when I got incarcerated, my daughter was only 2 months, and then my son, who is my junior, he was in my baby mother's stomach. So my kids had to pretty much grow up without a father, and you know, mentally, you know, that's devastating for a child not having their father around. Period. You know, kids need to have a 2-parent household, and if not, they need to at least have that support from a father figure. And, you know, I miss my kids' whole life. You know, if it wasn't for my mother, I mean, I probably wouldn't even have my kids in my life. You know, at the point, it's to the point now, I just want to have, you know, a chance to be out there with my kids and be a productive citizen and, you know, redeem myself and show, you know, my loved ones and family and even the system that people change and you could go home and do the right thing and you can change your life and be a great father and a great leader and be a positive citizen out in the world.
Yes, yes, you definitely can. And, you know, so many people, you know, when a person has been incarcerated, you know, society would try to just write them off, you know, kind of like, okay, you're done. But it's just like, you're not done unless you say you're done, you know, unless God says you're done. So anything you want to do, you just put your mind to it and you can do it. And so I think wanting to, you know, come out, be a family man, live your life, start your life officially, you know, I think it's a beautiful thing. And a lot of people have done it. Yeah.
And, you know, I definitely appreciate you going out your way to do this for me, because you know the obstacles we went to try to even have this conversation and interview dealing with political justice and justice reform. You know, you called everybody and reached out to everybody, and it seemed like they pretty much didn't want us to get this accomplished. So we had to go through hula hoops. So that shows where this supposed to be the Department of Corrections, but they're not correcting nothing. There's not even a true form of rehabilitation. They're not rehabilitating us. We just sitting in here to rot. You know? So a lot of these presidential elections, they saying justice reform, but we want to see it because, you know, it's like voting for the lesser of two evils, you know, at the end of the day. Because Biden, he's definitely good in trying to redeem himself, but I don't know if people know, but that administration, and when he was in the Senate, he the one that put strict laws and sentencing to mandatory minimums, and the reason why these harsh sentences started coming down. But now the Democrats is redeeming themselves. You know, like Governor Northern and Virginia, he understands that they made mistakes, so he's changing the laws for inmates in Virginia, and especially juvenile. But, you know, at this point in life, it's 2020, and we still dealing with racism. You know, that's disappointment and sickening. You know, when we're supposed to be the greatest, you know, country in the world.
Yeah, we're supposed to be, but it seems to only be great for a certain kind of people. And, you know, you're absolutely right when you talk about the American prison system not being for rehabilitation. If you look all around the world, the United States has literally some of the worst prisons in the world.
Now, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, there are currently about 2.3 million people locked away in this country in about 1,800 prisons and over 3,000 jails. In addition to that, in these federal prisons, state prisons, and jails, about 1 in 10 people will find themselves to be sexually victimized. 50% of the time, that's going to happen by an actual prison employee. And in addition to that, there are over 200,000 assaults that take place in these American facilities every single year, making American prisons some of the worst.
And it's crazy to think of that in a country that's supposed to be the greatest. And so I am curious, have you been able to get any like trades while you've been behind bars, or able to do like anything outside of, you know, just...
Most definitely, you know, on certain prisons, you definitely have an opportunity. You know, I was able to get my GED and I was able to get my plumbing trade. So I have a plumbing trade, I got a GED, and a few other things like thinking for a change and anger management and substance abuse. You have that, but, you know, a lot of those classes is like, okay, we're going to put you in here to get a certificate, but you're not really learning nothing outside of the GED and the trade, because when you do the trade, you actually have to do the work and build the house and break down, you know, appliances and the toilet and the kitchen sink and dishwasher. So the trades are good, you know, but you only could get a trade once every 5 years, and once you get one, it's like they don't want to, you're not really able to get another one, so you stuck with one trade. Because if I was able, I would have done every trade.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, but I'm definitely going to call back.
Ladies, treat Gianni. All natural herbs for a fresher, tighter, cleaner, healthier Yanni. This is the Yanni bowl. Here are the herbs. These are natural herbs. You know, a little steamy down there, but you know, it's perks to it. Keep everything right and tight. I'm going to Yanni Steam. If you haven't heard about it, definitely got to research it. It has wonderful, wonderful benefits. So ladies, try her out.
And you know, the thing is, a lot of these prisons, are built in rural areas where pretty much the only thing and only jobs they have is prison. So this is a real business. So they don't really want to change laws because when you build these prisons, pretty much most of them was on old slave fields where they used to pick cotton. Like, this is nothing but a form of modern-day slavery pretty much. You know, they had to end slavery, but a lot of us are still enslaved mentally and physically with these prisons and the laws that govern us. That is pretty much a trap for the rest of our lives. If you're not walking a straight, narrow path as a African American or Latino or anybody with ethnicity and they blood, pretty much the odds is against you. We don't have no room for error.
Yes.
We don't get second chances like that. All I'm asking for is a second chance. I could see if I had a criminal history out of this world, or I was a mass murderer or a rapist. Pedophile criminals and people with rape charges is getting less sentences than a 15-year-old that did a robbery and got a laptop. It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't, and like I try to tell people, this society is getting to a point where they're trying to normalize pedophilia. That's why they don't be hardly getting no time like that. I mean, that's the only reason I could think of to not harshly punish, though, because they need to be locked up. You know what I mean? But as far as others, it's more to it that they don't want to tell us. So.
Exactly, and it's weird because pedophilia or rape or even a murder, you traumatizing the victim for the rest of their life. With a robbery, I mean, you traumatized for that moment, but you could get over it. You could live past it, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with America and the justice system. A lot of people talk, and people say they want prison reform and everything, but at the end of the day, we need action.
Yes.
Because they could say it, but if there ain't no action behind it, then it's pretty much frivolous.
Yeah, it's really just all lies at that point, and it's just to get your vote or to get you to donate to this or to get you to donate to that, and it's crazy. So I know people are going to be interested in knowing, once you get out, because I believe in speaking positive and speaking things into existence. What plans do you have? Because I know you are engaged currently, right?
Yeah, most definitely. I'm married.
Oh, y'all got married? Ooh.
Yeah, we definitely got married. So, I'm pretty much, my goals in life is to help the youth, go to boys and girls, centers and clubs, and pretty much let them know, you don't want to follow this path. You want to listen to your parents and get an education, because without that, you have nothing in life. And, to let them know, hanging with the in crowd and being a follower and being a gang member, it seems fun. It seems like the most popular thing to do. But, in the end, it's only one result. And if you're not living a positive life, then you're going to end up dead or in jail. And, I want to start a non-profit organization, which I am going to start, to pretty much, help at-risk youth and teens. And I'm definitely going to work and, live a positive and legal lifestyle. I'm older now, and you don't get no younger, so everything that I do, it has to count, because I miss so much time in my life and my kids' life too, and I just want to be a positive dad for my kids.
And that's beautiful that you want that. It's beautiful, and it's a testament to your strength, because I don't know how you kept after a
Storm, I think they're locking it down for something, so I'm definitely going to have to call back. I hate that this interview had to be cut short, but that's how it is. But I definitely want people to sign that petition, Free Torie Chisholm, 101-8519.
It's definitely a lot. It's a lot you got to go through.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's yeah.
So, you trying to think, okay, from where we left off yesterday. I guess, honestly, yeah, you can just hop right in and tell me about how your experience has been behind bars.
Oh, you already got everything going?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I got it, table.
All right. Well, yeah, life behind bars has been definitely difficult. I think I came in prison at around like 17, and I was in jails at 16. I only was in the juvenile until I was like 16, and then I went straight from juvenile. I never went to no type of juvenile facility until I turned 18. As soon as I turned 16, I was in the adult jail. By the time I was 17, I was in prison. So, of course, since I've been locked up, I caught charges and things because, you have to put on the mask in order to keep people up off you. You put a young man in prison, you don't know what to expect. You see things on TV, and, prison can be like that. People are getting extorted. People are getting raped, and it's a lot of things. So, you have to put on the mask, and you have to either stand firm or you will get ate alive in here.
Yeah, that's very true.
And, you see what we have to go through. We still haven't gotten our conversation approved, so we had to go through many measures because it was like they trying to stop me from doing my interviews. And while we getting into that, prior to this, I've caught a charge because pretty much for trying to go home. And what I mean by that is, what I mean by that is, I've tried to, I've got a charge for saying that I have a legal call, and it be maybe an organization or a nonprofit organization trying to help juveniles, or maybe this platform, and then they'll go back and check my call and say, well, that wasn't the lawyer, and I have received a charge for that. And this is the thing that they do to try to set you back, because if they actually listen to my call, they would see that it was in legal nature. It wasn't nothing illegal. It wasn't nothing derogatory. These are legal calls for my freedom. But because it wasn't a lawyer, I've received a charge for it before, and they said I was lying, saying it was a legal call. You see, this is the things you got to go through every day, and this is why when we was first doing the interview, you had to call all these people and fax all these people, and even then they still really didn't want to approve it because they want to filter you. They don't want people to know what actually goes on in these prisons. They don't want the world to know that this supposed to be the Department of Corrections would rehabilitate you, but pretty much it's more punishment than anything because most people not getting rehabilitated.
Right. Yeah. It's like they just housing you in there just, for whatever your sentence is, but it's like, okay, we're going to send these men back into the world, and it's like, how did you help them while they were in? And they're not helping y'all at all.
Exactly, and I actually caught a charge on this facility. That's the only reason why I had to leave the phone abruptly and everything, because, they called me out. And, I had different people calling up here and calling them about, my interview and everything, and they gave me all type of runarounds. And I had so many people calling on my behalf that they pulled me out and told me, can I get the people to take the pressure off me? So I'm like, why would I get the people to take the pressure off you when I'm just trying to go home, and I feel like y'all trying to stagnate me from the process of going home. I'm not doing nothing illegal. I haven't caught one charge since I've been here, except the charge that y'all gave me, which was for trying to go home.
Wow.
So, yeah, if y'all trying to stagnate me, I'm going to have family and different organizations calling up here, because everything that I'm doing at this point in time in my life is for my freedom.
Yeah. You fighting to get out, and they don't want to let that happen. Then again, maybe they're surprised to see somebody actually fight for themselves. Maybe they just, used to seeing people just kind of be like, okay, whatever, it is what it is. So
exactly, especially like up here, being in southwestern Virginia, in the rural area where is 98% all, Caucasian employees. Most of us inmates up here is pretty much, we're not going to fight for nothing up here, because most of us trying to get off here and out of here. Wallaceburg State Prison, where I'm at, is one of the worst prisons probably in the U.S. And if you Google it, it would show how they used to kill inmates up here. This place been under investigation for a long time for numerous different things.
Yeah. It's just insane, because prison is a whole nother world, and most people just they don't understand. You know what I'm saying? They think, oh well, they're following the rules and they're doing what they're supposed to do, but a lot of times the prisons don't. Like, they be doing illegal stuff too. So
exactly, and it's pretty much like, okay, we have to follow the rules and they don't. Which, I understand that this is their domain, and I don't want to diminish the fact that people have committed crimes. I understand, and you have to be punished to a certain extent. We already getting punished for our crime by being away from our loved ones, by being told what to do every day, and not being able to have the luxuries of life and freedom, and some of the things that we have to go through on an everyday basis, especially on a prison like this, can be very, depressing, and a lot of people that get back out in society be having all type of mental disorders. I just had, for real, I had to pride myself and really make myself be strong in order to go through a lot of the things that I've been through in my life. It takes a strong person to educate themselves in here, because when I got my GED, I had to learn it myself. It wasn't really nobody that helped me, but I did finish high school. I did go to about the 10th grade, going into the 11th when I got incarcerated, because I'm not a career criminal. I did go to school prior to this charge. This is a misfortunate, crime. It wasn't like I just was on a crime spree and been a thug my whole life. You feel me? And so I had to reapply and do everything myself. When I did my plumbing course, I had to do it myself. It's people in here that have been locked up 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, and still don't have a GED.
Embrace Pangea is a black-owned health and wellness brand that has solidified themselves as being able to take care of your yoni. But guess what? They do more than just service your yoni. Yes, as a matter of fact, Embrace Pangea has products to cover you from head to toe, inside and out. And in particular, let me tell you about a couple products that I personally use. Number one is the herbal tooth powder that is better than any toothpaste that you will get over the counter. It will get your teeth clean and help your teeth to maintain a natural white shade. And in addition addition to that, the advanced botanical mouthwash is something that we all should have in our medicine cabinet. Now, when you look at a bottle like this with 25 potent herbs like echinacea, golden cell, don't laugh at me if I mispronounced that, you know what I meant. We need these natural ingredients in our mouth rinses so that we can fight tooth decay, gingivitis, all of that plaque, halitosis, and overall poor oral hygiene, okay? So if you want to get a good clearance when you go to the dentist, get you some Embrace Pangea, and in addition to that, make sure you use my code STORM to get 10% off your order and check out today.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. They make you fight for every little piece of freedom you have behind bars, even though they took your freedom. But anything you want to do in there, anything positive you want to do, they're gonna give you the runaround.
Exactly. And you know, I do want to always say, you know, I don't want to diminish that people in prison did their crimes. So yes, some people in here need to do the time, but how much time is enough for certain individuals? You know, I understand I did something, but if you take a poll or you interview the world, and if they child made a mistake and hung around the wrong crowd, no matter what their race is, black, white, Caucasian, Asian, red, whatever you want to say, they would not want their child to get 47 years or life for robberies. They would go to the end of the world to fight that. So, you know, what you are pushing for and what you are interviewing, and the reason why you're doing this, I understand it and respect it. Some people wouldn't understand it, but if they sat down and put themselves in the other person's shoes and it was their son, it was their nephew, it was their little brother, they would not want this to happen the way that it did.
Absolutely not. And a lot of people feel like, well, that would never happen to me, but you can't ever say never. Like, you never know. So I think one thing that people should know too is that prison is also like typically like the different races face it themselves. You have to stay with your own kind. At least that's what we've heard on the outside. So is there any truth to that?
Yeah, you know, you definitely got your groups. You know, you got, even with the phones, you got, everything is sectioned off. So you got white dudes, and then you got Aryan Brother Nation. They have their phones. Then you got Bloods and Crips. They got Crips got their phone, Bloods got their phone, GDs got their phone, Muslims got their phone. Then you have regular civilian phones, you know, and it's pretty much order. And if anybody get out of that order, then you know it could get violent in here, you know. But yeah, it's definitely separated by race, you know. But now the difference is you have white people that's Bloods and Crips now because, yeah, that's how it goes. So, but you have just straight white gangs like the Aryan Brotherhood, and you know they straight racist, and they don't like no white person that deals with black people like that, or that's a part of any black gangs and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, everything gets separated.
Wow. Yes. Wow.
Yeah, and you know, it's just crazy because we have to. I'm doing this interview on my own time, and I definitely appreciate you for having patience, and because dealing with the corona and the pandemic, we're not really getting wrecked like that on a regular basis. So, this is so much important to me. I'd rather do this interview and get this message out than even talk to my own family and loved ones at this point. You did? Because it's about fighting for something. It's 2020. If you're not fighting for something you believe in, then you live in an unfulfilling life. I wouldn't even feel like myself if I wasn't fighting for something. And even when I'm released and able to be released, I'm going to feel the same way because this is what I feel like my calling was. I feel like, God preserved me for a reason, because I could have easily been caught up in gangs and died, or even did my crime when I was an adult and when I had a chance to come home, period.
Yeah, that's true too. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that today.
My own brother died in 16, just leaving the female house, and he got robbed and killed because he didn't want to give his what he had up, and he was only 23 years old. So that could have been me, and God rest his soul. But these are things that happen every day in urban communities. We going against each other and harming each other, and I just feel like I was preserved for a reason, because the path that I was living or I was ready to start choosing got halted because pretty much we were dumb criminals. Me personally, this was like the first thing I ever done, illegal or violent. So, and I guess the people that I was following were dumb criminals because we all got caught. You feel me?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's, man, you did not deserve the time that you got. The punishment did not fit the crime. It just didn't. You messed
exactly.
You messed up one time and got the book thrown at you.
Especially, I was 15 years old, and the main thing is I was the only minor. It wasn't like it was a whole group of minors and we all did something headless. No, I was the only minor and everybody else was adults. The only one that was close to my age was the female that was the driver that for this particular crime, and she was in college, and I think she was 21. But everybody else was in their mid-20s or higher. So this is, a 15-year-old can't control a person that's in their mid-20s and tell them what to do.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm just imagining a judge. How can you sleep at night knowing you sent away a teenager? For you sent them away mostly pretty much for life. Like how can you sleep with yourself for a one-time offense where nobody died?
And another thing, a lot of the laws they made prior to me getting incarcerated was started in 1995 when they took parole from a lot of the states and made it straight 85% that you had to do. Well, they pretty much said, and people could Google this, that juveniles was called super predators. So they was basically saying that, like dudes that's doing crime, individuals that's doing crimes at juveniles, we're going to give them hard sentences because we're not going to let them get away with this. Instead of trying to rehabilitate them or do like a form of psychology tests on juveniles or do a background check on their upbringing or what's going on mentally in their head, they said, no, we're going to just don't lock them up and throw away the key. And another thing is, I'm in Virginia, and prior to that, maybe like me getting locked up, within that year before me, the D.C. sniper, Marvel, and his father was going around killing people. So, he was a juvenile. So when they gave him a hard sentence, when I went to court...
You have 1 minute remaining.
Yeah, we're going to finish this. I'm going to call back.
Okay. All
right. You heard me?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm here. That was a recording coming on. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, we straight.
All right, yeah, but like I was saying before the call was ending, Malvo and his father was going around, DMV, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, killing people, and they was already angry in the court system. So I come around and get sentenced right after that. So when I get sentenced, I'm in front of the judge and the prosecutor. And, technically I was supposed to get like 23 years because if you see the agreement, it was from 23 to 50. So, because they were trying to give me a life sentence. So, when I went in front of that courtroom, the prosecutor said, no, I feel like we should give him the harshest sentence because Malvo was a juvenile. He pretty much tried to throw, the fear of Malvo and what happened with the D.C. sniper in Virginia just to shake the courtroom up so that they could go above my guidelines.
Oh, okay.
They pretty much, because he tried to compare me to a mass serial killer, and then I ended up getting 303 years and suspended everything before December. I mean, yeah, and that's how it happened. They went way above my guidelines. If they would have did a pre-sentence report in my guidelines, I probably would have only, if they followed the guidelines when they do a pre-sentence report, I probably would have did probably 10, 15 years. I would have already been home. But in Virginia, it's a commonwealth. They could pretty much bend and move the law how they want to.
Which I was saying yesterday is it's so messed up. It's like you're playing with people's lives, yeah. I never knew that about Virginia. I never thought about that.
Yeah, and this was in Henrico, which is a county inside Richmond, which is the biggest city in Virginia, the capital. And just recently, if people Google it, Norfolk, Virginia, just had a mass corruption dealing with their court system about the prosecutors paying known people that tell and informants money to lie on the stand to get their convictions. So this is the type of corruption that goes on in Virginia. I think the court I went in, they have like a 99% conviction rate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're not beating no charges. Either they're gonna make you plea out. Either they're gonna find you guilty and give you 1,000,000 years where you never go home, or they're gonna make you plea out where you still coming home old and gray, or probably, after you do a long-term bid.
It's just sad. They're just using black men for commodities as property, as labor.
Yeah, for money. They keep these prisons open because when they changed the law in '95 and took parole, and when they made it was called the Truth and Sentencing Bill, pretty much, where they took parole and they took that 50% and 65% of doing your time, which means if they would have gave you 47 years back then, you would have did 23 years, or you would have been eligible for parole in 10. So when that's the law, that's the law that Trump keeps talking about, Joe Biden and sanctioning and changing, which was duly against black individuals, because the crimes that they did, the Truth and Sentencing bill, was mainly for the crimes that black people commit, which was crack cocaine, not cocaine, crack. They made hard sentences for little pills of crack and robberies. They raised the sentencing for robberies because they said, in their mind, we all knew that they felt like these was the crimes that the black individuals was committing the most.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. They're not saying outright, we're attacking black people, but we're just gonna up the charges for things that black folks do. Yeah, they're not slick at all.
And you know, I'm not saying that because I agree with Trump. Let me make that clear, because he's a known racist. You know, he's outspoken with his racism, and he's not really doing nothing to help people incarcerated. I mean, he pardoned a few people, and he has done he released some people in federal prison, you know, for nonviolent charges. But at the end of the day, all his friends are doing nonviolent charges. They so corrupt that that's going to benefit him. He's not really doing nothing. So I don't pretty much agree with him at all. But, you know, like I was saying prior in our interview, you know, it's like the lesser of two evils. And, you know, Biden's saying he's going to try to redeem himself for the laws that he passed when he was in the House, or I think it was the Senate, and that he voted for. You know, he even came out on TV on many interviews and said it was a mistake what they done. So we gonna see.
Yeah, we gonna see. You know, they say anything to get elected, but you know, I think things will be different this time around. Well, I'm a hope for the best. That's all we can do. Hope for the best.
Yeah, most definitely.
And so I did want to touch on the fact that, you know, you've gotten married, you know, since you've been in. So tell us a little bit about, like, how you guys have been able to maintain your relationship.
Well, you know, it's not easy, but, you know, it just remaining strong and just, you know, pretty much believing in trusting the process. You know, it's a good thing because everybody deserves to have love and be in love. And it's crazy, you know, people sometimes fall in love in the strangest ways and places. So, you know, the female that I've been dealing with, she's been, you know, by my side and doing everything that she can to help me come home and showing me loyalty. You know, more loyalty than a lot of the friends that I had before I was incarcerated. All of my baby mothers, family, you know, and she just embodied, you know, just being trustworthy and loyal. And, you know, it's not easy dealing with somebody incarcerated because, you know, we're not out there in the physical. So a lot of things is emotional and spiritual and mentally. And for real, that's bonding in ways that most men out there really don't want to bond with their counterparts or whoever they're dealing with, because these days most people only focus on the physical, which is sex.
Right.
You know, so a lot of times, you know, that's all men really care about, is just trying to get the next new female or the next new male, whoever they're dealing with, you know, because this is how the world is today. And, you know, it's like people not really loyal no more. You know, everybody want to have sex and deal with everybody. And, I mean, if you single, you could do that. But if you using or saying that you want to be with somebody or giving them the impression that you want to do that, but you doing you on the side, it for real runs a lot of people away from them. And this is why men in prison are able to have strong relationships, because a lot of people out in society are so grimy and they doing a lot of females wrong or men wrong, whoever that they dealing with, because I don't judge nobody. You know, I feel like we all human beings. You feel me?
Yeah, we are. And I'm glad you touched on that point of, you know, that's why a lot of, you know, being in prison, they are married and they are in relationships because they actually are putting in the work emotionally, you know. But people on the outside, they're like, I ain't got to do that. They just going about their business. So I'm glad you made that point, because that's another thing that people really don't think about.
Yeah, and, you know, exactly. A lot of people don't think about that. But, you know, that is pretty much a lot. That's a strong, you know, a big part of a relationship, because you could have sex with somebody and it could be good sex. But at the end of the day, when sex is done, what are we talking about? What conversation we going to have? We don't even know each other. We don't get along. I don't even like you for real. And that's why people are not having strong-based relationships, because it's mainly based on the physical.
Yeah.
And then once the physical gone and you had sex so many times and it gets old, now you just with somebody that you really don't even know, that you really don't have a bond with.
You're right.
Because it's like you have to be a friend and you have to get along with the person that you're with, because once sex is done, once you've done having sex, okay, what our relationship gonna be based upon?
Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, we done with that. Now what else? Now you have to live real life and deal with that person. So
exactly, real life situations. Yeah, so I guess that's why I was lucky enough to, pretty much be in the situation that I am. And, to be, honestly, since I've been incarcerated, it hasn't been that tough for me to really have people in my life. But the thing has been is keeping them in your life. Because, somebody might want to just deal with you because you're handsome. You feel me? And just to say they dealt with you. But really, their intention is just to say, oh, I dealt with that person. But they don't have that loyalty, so a lot of people just come and go. They'll come or probably be there for a few years or maybe a couple of months, and then they on to the next. But I've been in relationships where females is claiming you on Facebook or whatever, and they not living their life for real. It's like a facade. They just, dealing with every time they can hurry everybody. You feel me? So,
wow.
Yeah. So that's how it goes.
Wow.
You know how it go. People be capping. A lot of people be capping for Instagram and Facebook. They might post you up there because you look handsome, so the world could think, oh, they dealing with a handsome man. But the whole time, you don't know what they doing. You feel me?
That is true, man. Especially when it comes to social media, people be, like I said, they be capping just to make people think they got somebody. So
exactly, that's the things a lot of people in prison got to deal with. And I tried, I pride myself in not being too emotional with things, because I understand how the world is now. I understand how it goes, and I understand how people think. So, I don't let things really bother me as much as I used to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like that comes with age too. You kind of learn not to stress over things that aren't important, or either things that can't control. You're like, if I can't control that, then okay, it is what it is. So I think that comes with time as well.
Yeah, and at this point in time in my life, if somebody's not positive, no matter who they are, family member, childhood friend, which is not many, but friends, family member, brothers, the person that you're with, then I don't even want them around me, because, misery loves company. And right now I need all positivity in my life. That's the only thing that shines bright in the world, positivity. If you're not positive, then that negative energy could rub off on you,
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
And they say,
it will.
Yeah.
In this whole time you've been locked up, who's been by your side? I take it probably just your mother, but I wanted to just get clarification. And your wife.
Yeah, but my whole incarceration, my mother has been there the most. She's been there through it all, through the ups and downs. And, my mother fought to get me home, she's given me paid lawyers, when she had to raise 3 other sons, by herself. Since I've been incarcerated, I didn't have a paid lawyer when I went through my my initial sentencing and crimes, but after I got sentenced, she paid thousands of dollars, $10,000 to be exact, for lawyers, and then they pretty much ain't do nothing. And this was like, I'm going to say about 09, 08, but there wasn't no juvenile laws that passed yet. So we ended up going to the D.C. bar and getting our money back, but then at that time, the recession came, so she needed the money. So now we pretty much struggling again, where, she needed the money, so I had to wait. And now, things are looking better, and, I'm able to get a lawyer to fight for my clemency, which is John Cargasol. He got another juvenile in Virginia, from Norfolk, Virginia, out. He has 2 or 6 life sentences on gang-related robberies, and he got his sentence reduced to 14 years. And his name is Travion Blunt, and people could Google it, and he got a clemency, and now he's home. So I have the same lawyer, so he specializes in juveniles getting home on clemency and for juveniles getting hard sentences.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's good. At least he specializes in that, so he knows what to do.
Exactly.
And he's had some success, which is good too.
So this publicity and this interview is great for everything that I'm trying to do, and signing my petition, which is going to help for my parole date and my clemency, because having the world back you is always a positive thing. It shows that it's a movement and that people could be unified and something that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you're right. All right. Oh man, just the strength you've had should be commended, because most people would not have made it mentally. They would have lost it a long time ago. Just a long time.
Most definitely. And they try to put you on medication. When they gave me my sentence, the first thing they did was try to put me on medication, like different medications. I don't even know the name of them. And I told them, nah, I'm good. So they looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, nah. I was like, I'm coming home. Like, I'm okay. I don't need to be drugged up to sleep or nothing like that. I'm not going to harm myself. And I always kept that in mind. And so over the years, I always prayed every night. I was like, this no exaggeration, Storm. Every night since I've been incarcerated, I prayed that God bless me to come home, keep my kids and family and loved ones, safe. Bless me with the strength to go through this every day, and keep me, harm-free and safe.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Every day I prayed that he would pass laws that pertain to me, which means juveniles, for me to be able to come home. And man, I'm gonna say in 2016 they came out with a bill about the juveniles getting parole, and they kept it not know it was 14. And I kept praying for it. And they kept denying it. Republicans kept denying it. But the Democrats was for it. And then in 2020, just now, this year, they passed it. And they was like, juveniles need a chance at getting out in society. And then they put a number on it. After 20 years, you can go for parole. So I've seen what prayer could do. And that's pretty much how I stay sane, just having faith and believing. You got to keep belief and keep striving. That's what kept me strong all these years.
Okay. Yep. Be straight.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what kept me strong, just having faith. Because it's easy to lose faith when you locked up for so many years and, you don't really have hope. But having hope always changes things, and having faith always seems to change things. I think it's a few juveniles that been getting out, on clemency, like Travion Blunt. He had gang-related robberies in Virginia. He got a clemency. He home. I think her name is Centonia Brown, who Kim K helped out. She was a juvenile, had murder, but her case was a little bit, different because she was being sex trafficking and she killed the culprit. So it's a lot of different other juveniles that, that's home. And, I hope that they fighting to get other juveniles out or to change these juvenile laws for being sentenced harshly, because that's one of the things I'm going to do. Now, I know some crimes you have to pay for your crime. Don't get it twisted. This is America, and for every action is a reaction, But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that the youth are being handled delicately, and all cases need to be handled delicately,
Yeah, and the sentence needs to make sense for the crime.
Exactly.
It needs to. Or even why do we have to be so quick to throw people in prison? If they have a drug habit, send them to rehab. Like it's a lot of things that can be changed. So.
Exactly, and I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people come in prison and they never been on drugs in their life, and then you come in prison and now people stop being on these hard drugs. That's another thing. Prison is making people worse off than they was as if they would have went to like boot camp or something else where they went to came to prison, because on certain prisons it's everything in the world and every drug you can get. So you got people going home with heroin addicts. You got people going home, cocaine heads, Molly heads, Sebastian strip heads, which is a gateway to heroin. You feel me? So, man, this prison is not a rehabilitation like they make it seem. It's more a punishment, and I understand it should be, but if you're trying to correct something, you have to rehabilitate it, and prison is not doing that, not to the standards that they get in the government checks and government backing financially for. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because it's like... Because you could get that money to the schools in the city. The schools in the urban neighborhoods not getting that much funding. No, they're not. They're not at all, which is sad. The system is set up, for people of color to be laborers in prison and keep these profit prisons going. It's just how it's set up. So, oh man, and it's a lot of intelligent people and good people, that people will never know that's in prison. A lot of talented, smart guys, but they haven't been given the opportunity or the chance to redeem themselves or to show all their qualities and their attributes in life, and that's sad. Because given a chance, a lot of people that go home after doing a lot of time actually do the right thing. It's crazy. I don't understand why Virginia hasn't changed laws in general, period, like they should, because we have, I think, one of the top, if not top number one, recidivism ratio, where people that go home is not coming back. But that's because they know, why would I come back when they giving out time where people that ain't nobody going home like that. The jails is packed, the prisons is packed. You got people that's been sentenced to years and years and decades that's still sitting in the jail waiting to be shipped to prison. Yeah. Because this is a business out here. You got to think, there's not many jobs in a lot of these small counties in Virginia, so the prison industrial system is a big profit. So they have to keep a certain amount of people incarcerated.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. They have to. They have to keep that train moving. And so it's just kind of like, oh, okay, you committed a crime, or I give him the max sentence you can. Like, even if it doesn't make sense, throw it at him. So it's basically evil. That's the best way I can put it. It's evil and it's slavery, you know. So, oh man, yeah. Now what?
I want to ask, huh?
Oh no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
You all right?
Real quick, I didn't want you to forget your thought, but I was going to ask about like entertainment that you guys have behind bars.
Well, you know, entertainment is pretty much like the chaos machine, which you got a tablet, which you could get, you know, all the music, and you could download video games and books on it and read it. You know, you could order your TV, which you got television and basic cable, a few channels, not everything, but BET, you know, ESPN, a few things like that. And then, you know, on certain prisons, you already know, dudes got phones. So, you know, it's pretty much lit. You got access to everything. You know, do you supposed to have it? No, but this is prison. You know, anything that have that attachment to the outside world, you're gonna have that. You know, you're gonna pay for that, because you got to think they not paying individuals that work here, you know, a lot of money. So a lot of these prisons all over the U.S., if they can make extra money, you know they're going to do that, because the world is pretty much corrupted. So, you know, dudes got access to everything in here, and, you know, when you get access to that, you're going to see everything. YouTube, everything that you could possibly get on, individual is basically on. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay, because that's something that, you know, I've heard people talk about, but I don't think they understand. Like, nah, you can really get anything in there, like anything you want.
Anything. You know, anything. Prison is corrupted. It's not like, you know, you don't. They try to say you're not going to be able to do the things that you are entitled to, but on certain prisons all over the U.S., it's happening, and it's happening at an all-time high. You know, this is something that happens on a regular basis. Yeah, so, you know, prison is corrupted. You got everything. You got drugs. You got, phones. You got anything that you have access to, you will have. It depends where you at. And the state is probably more corrupted than the federal prison, because, you know, federal prison is more by the book, because anything they do is a federal charge. But where state, they could just quit and leave and they good. You feel me?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, dang, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so that's why the state is more corrupted than actual federal prisons.
Dang, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like
and
I
if
said,
you get caught with anything, you would just go to a higher level. Like if you're on the 3, you get caught with a phone or drugs or anything, they just send you to a level 5 prison, make you sit up there for a year or 2, charge free, and then you'll get up. They'll send you back down to a 4 or 3. It depends what your points is.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, man, I've always wondered, because I'm like, you know, you guys should have access to stuff, because you need, you know, you need somewhat of an escape to, you know, to make sure, you know, basically to keep people from losing it in there. They need something.
Exactly. I mean, if they wouldn't have as much problems as they do in prison if everybody had access to phones, because a lot of the stabbings and killings in prison be over the par phone.
Yeah.
Like, that's dudes, everybody trying to talk to their kids, their mothers, their wives and family. Dudes that die over these phones in prison. Like, that's the number one thing in prison that's like that, and gambling. Dudes getting chopped down for that, or owing somebody for drugs or something. But I say phones is probably more so than anything. You know, it's some people in prison that might not even touch the phone because the phones are so serious in here, especially on a prison like this where I'm at. Like, it's a privilege to get on the phone. You have to be respected, kind of, you know?
Yeah. I mean, wow, I didn't think. That's another thing we don't think about. I didn't know that the phones was one of the biggest sources of violence in there.
Exactly.
But then, you know what? Then I can think of it would especially be bad for newcomers that don't know the order of things, and the OGs are like, "Nah, you gotta wait your turn," or "Nah, you can't use that phone." Like I can see it being so much confusion. So yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but I think they trying to lock us down. So,
Are you living a hectic and stressful life? Between the news and racial stress and trauma, do you find yourself feeling alone and anxious? If so, join our community, Mind, Body, Faith, and learn how to establish daily practices that aid in healing the mind, body, and spirit, like meditation, yoga, prayer, breath work, and journaling. Pause and let your spirit breathe by using our meditation prayer cards and meditation candles when you need to reconnect with God. Start on your new path by taking our meditation quiz, because it's always a good time to meditate with God.
Are you struggling with hair growth issues? Or are you ready to finally be able to actually put your hair in a real ponytail and not that little knob? Have you found that beauty supply products leave your hair dry, flat, useless, and dull? And are you ready for a change? And if you are, you need to try some moomoogrease. This product was created for us, and nothing will change about your hair if you don't change your regimen. This product can be used in old people, young people, it doesn't matter. The products are 100% vegan, and all of the information for Moo Grease is down in the description box below.
It's a storm show. Ay, it's a storm show.